On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, we're joined by Derek Parker at DParkOK to discuss the Thunder's first few games, how they're going to handle the next 5 games, and can Josh Giddey break out of his slump and more. Coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. On today's show, we are joined by Derek Parker of InsideTheThunder.com, DraftDigest.com, and DParkOK on YouTube and Twitter. Derek, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm on the front end of a Thanksgiving back-to-back today. Really like a back-to-back because I've got like 4 or 5 Thanksgivings, but I'm ready to hit it all in stride, continue watching hoops throughout every single day. It's a great time of the year.
Listen, man, it's 3 games in 4 nights. You've got to be ready to roll with the punches. This is a young team. You and your lovely bride-to-be, young couple, got to make it through, got to show maturity, got to, handle the stress and the pressure of the performing, really. It's very performative to go to all these Thanksgivings. So I know you can do it. One thing that you've been performing on is Twitter. Goodness, Derek. How many fights are you going to get in on Twitter?
Do people really see these as fights? Like, I feel like I've had multiple people tell me that of like, man, you're really scrapping on Twitter. And it's like, this is not even like a top 10 fight of the week. Like, you ought to see me, my actual fisticuffs. Like, this is nothing. Twitter's nothing to me.
Wow, you just called those trolls light work. So you're just in little Donnybrooks, huh? Little brouhahas on the weekend.
Listen, these guys on Twitter, in my quote tweets, getting their little 10 likes over and over, same 10 people liking their tweet. They're nothing. They're nothing to me.
Wow. Well, DP, I love the confidence, but let's talk about Josh Giddey. Okay, he's the hottest topic around the Thunder. Because I think that, like, going back to, some of the Twitter fodder, I think that when you look at a lot of, especially younger people on Twitter, they in my opinion, they kind of view it as the only objectivity is negativity. So if you're positive, then you're automatically not objective. And so everyone is always looking for something to click onto of why this is terrible, despite the Thunder being 10-4, despite them still not clicking yet as a whole unit and still being this good to kind of lay the foundation for how good that they can be. But one of the biggest talking points in this success has been the lack of success for Josh Giddey. What's been your overall thoughts on Josh's performance so far this season, and also kind of how he can turn it around with this group?
Yeah, I think firstly, like, there is merit to some, I don't want to say slander, Josh Giddey slander, but to the energy that's being thrown Josh's way. Like, to this point, he has not been a great or impactful basketball player in the season. Like, point blank period, there's not really a positive spin on what he's done tangibly so far this year. But the issue with that take is that it's completely in the now. Like, these exact same people that are wanting Josh Giddey off the team right now wanted Lou Dort off the team last year. And obviously look at what Lou Dort has done this year. He's been phenomenal, has improved in a ton of ways. And he's 24? Josh Giddey's 21. There's a lot of time to improve. Again, to this point, he hasn't been great. This is still 14 games into this core. Josh Giddey has been asked to change his game more than anyone on this Thunder team in the past few seasons. And he's been asked to do it again in this lesser role, in this kind of less on-ball role that he's done this year. And I think we've got plenty of evidence that he can adapt to that. Last year, of course, he comes out and he is not as good in the first stretch of 8, 10, 14 games. Then he comes back and he puts on a phenomenal rest of the season. I think we have evidence that Josh Giddey can be a good, impactful basketball player. I mean, there's evidence right now. What's he doing? He's doing 12, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. He's averaged more assists and rebounds than that alone. Like, of course, the shooting struggles are there. Like, it is this looming thing where the 3-point ball may never come around. And that could be really important to this team. But the fact that he's averaging less rebounds and assists, to me, screams that he's just having a down stretch of games rather than this is truly who he is.
So I think that part of that thinking is what I've called football brain, of just like everyone is so dialed into each and every game. And in football, especially college football, which is like the most biggest thing here, one game decides your entire season. And these seasons are short. You have a finite amount of time to get where you want to go. And the thing with the Thunder and Josh Giddey is, first of all, it's an 82-game season. So like the sample size gets bigger and bigger, and you have a lot of time to adjust and everything. But also this season for the Thunder, I think, yes, they're performing very well. Yes, I think that they're going to be a top 6 seed in the West. I don't think that's like a hot take anymore, is that they're going to be, one of the safe teams out of the play-in. But no matter what they do this season, they're not going to be a NBA Finals contending team. You can talk yourself into, like, maybe they can have a surprise run. The Mavericks did it with Luka a couple seasons ago, and then they ended it in Golden State. But still, you can talk yourself into that sort of thing. But realistically, when you look at this team, they're not going to win the championship this year. And that's not the expectation. I think the expectation this year is, go and have a hard-fought first-round series. Hopefully you win it, but we don't really know how that's going to line up yet. Like last year, the Kings had a great regular season, performance, got the 3 seed. They just so happened to match up with those Hall of Famers in that dynastic team in Golden State and go to Game 7. You can't really count that as a failure, even though the higher seed didn't get out of the first round. So the pressure and point of emphasis of fans kind of wanting the Thunder to do it now and to go all in right now, they're just not there yet. So they have time. Like, give it time to see what Josh Giddey and this core becomes. They're in no rush and shouldn't be in a rush to make that decision right now, because they're going to have time to pivot. They're going to have a lot of time to pivot, and they will pivot if things don't get better. But you want a larger sample size and a larger kind of collection of data than just these 14 some odd games, especially whenever you're talking about Josh Giddey, who, as you mentioned, has had to change so much about himself. And I point out again, FIBA, like, he was really good at FIBA. I don't think that in 2 months he forgot how to play basketball. I think that this is just a growing struggle of finding out his new role, finding out when to play. And even more importantly for Thunder fans is, even if you only care about winning night to night, the Thunder have proven, even last year, whenever they didn't have as good of a team, that if Josh isn't playing well, he's not going to play basketball in the closing stretches, in the most important stretches of games. So they have avenues to counteract that, even game to game. So I think that, with Josh Giddey, it just is, it's not the hot take that you want, but he's not playing well right now. And we just have to see, what is he going to become? What is he going to deliver as the season goes on? And if it's this bad for 82 games, then in the summertime, you have a lot of discussions and a lot of decisions to make. But right now, you just have to monitor the situation.
Yeah, I fully agree. And to people's point of, well, why isn't he the 6th man? Why aren't we doing different things with him role-wise, or why aren't they trading him immediately? Tanking his value isn't going to help either. Like, he is a high-value piece in this league, whether people want to believe it or not. And relegating him to a smaller role is going to tank that value, even if you want to ship him down the line. So not saying that is what this franchise has in mind. It's definitely not. He is going to be a part of this franchise for a very long time. He's going to have a large role on this team for a very long time. But relegating him to less minutes, less role, playing with bench players is not the way to go about this situation, even if you are under the impression that other people are better in certain scenarios.
Yeah, and I think that people put too much of a point of emphasis on, like, the first 5.
Yeah,
and in reality,
100%.
the starting 5 doesn't matter. Like, you get called by the PA announcer and you get to go through the little lineup and whatever. That's cool. But when you actually watch the games, the Thunder are very quick to stagger those guys out. Like, they leave in Lou and Shai, but then the rest of the starting 5 comes out early and they play with the bench the majority of the time in the middle of the game. And at the end of the game, they try to close together if they're all playing well. But most of the time, there's kind of a little deviate from the starting 5 in the closing lineup. But still, in a operative world, the starting 5 plays together for a little bit of a chunk at the start of the first quarter. Then Shai and Lou close it out. Then the rest of the 3 come back in to play with the bench for those middle frames. So even though he is starting, he's getting what fans want anyway. He's getting time with the reserves, and he's getting time, staggered off the floor from Shai. So, like, they're already doing that stuff without quote unquote benching him. Now, Derek, let's talk. Thanks for just leaving me hanging there, Derek. Let's talk.
I had an ad on Basketball Reference just absolutely blaring in my ears. Did you end on a question?
No.
I feel like we settled the case personally.
Yeah. Okay. The verdict was in, but you need to buy StatHead, by the way. But, and for the trolls, I did give DP clean the glass, so he has it now. So it's up to him to use it now, but he has it now.
You can't let the trolls in on my secrets.
You guys can relax, all right? Now, Cason Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
You're the draft guy. You're big on Cason coming in. How has he performed in your expectations? And how good can he be? Because my take, call me crazy if you need to, that he can be an all-defensive team member in his career very easily and sooner than later. Not this year, he's a rookie, but like sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like I was very big on Cason. I think I had him 5th on my final big board of the class, and I hold to that, obviously. He's even blown my expectations out of the water. I think if you'd asked me if I was expecting him to average 65% from the floor, I would say no. So he's been unbelievable. I think it's clear he's an elite role player, even from 14 games. I mean, we can see, like, sample size be damned, we can see he is an elite role player. Really, really good off and on ball defensively. Offensively, he's done all that and more. The assists are there, even in his 23 minutes per game. 1.7 assists is great. That's scalable. Now, is he... The question is he more than a role player? Is he a budding star? I think it's up for debate. The way he plays doesn't necessarily lend itself to stardom, but it does to impact, if that makes sense. So to your all defense point, he's a guy that I think is going to offer all defensive level minutes for the next decade and a half, whatever. Is that necessarily going to translate to accolades? I don't know. I mean, Lou Dort gets star calls every single night. Luka Doncic is saying he's one of the best defenders in the league. Kevin Durant saying he's one of the best defenders in the league, and it has not translated to stuff yet. So whether he is this quote unquote star, I don't know, but he's going to be a super impactful basketball player for a very long time. And that's exciting.
It is exciting. And you can see how the Thunder already trust him and already put him in a lot of different scenarios. Now, Derek, coming up, let's talk Chet. Let's talk Shai MVP, and the Thunder have a very tough 5-game stretch ahead. How will they look afterward? All coming up. But first, what I'd say right now, my good friends over at eBay Motors, millions of parts for you to be your MVP. You can win every time with parts that fit your ride at eBay Motors, folks. Our partners at eBay Motors have partnered up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. No matter if you're preparing for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to help provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit your roster, just as eBay Motors is guaranteed to fit your ride. It's the eBay Motors Guarantee Fantasy Pick of the Week from Josh Lloyd. Here's his team. Derek, help me out here. His team is Kyle Anderson, Santi Aldama, Jaden Ivey, Eric Gordon, and Alex Caruso. Who do you think would best fit that fantasy team out there?
What, like other player?
No, which player of that list? I personally...
The list you gave me?
Yes.
Give me the Caruso.
Okay, I like that. Insert into the lineup. Caruso has an appealing fantasy option, and so he'll be able to help out as the Bulls kind of try to figure things out and get back on track. But Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors is going to make sure that you get the championship team out of your ride that you want. So go there right now. If you have time right now, you should be going to eBay Motors, because with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure rides stay running smoothly. Brake kits, LED lights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever you need for your sweet, sweet baby, eBay Motors has it all. It's the guaranteed eBay Motors fit. And so if you're like me, I know nothing about cars. Zero. I couldn't tell you anything except for my make, model, my year. That's perfect, because eBay Motors, when I put that information in, then boom, they're only showing me parts that can fit with my car. That way I'm not guessing, I'm not wondering, I'm not hunting, and I'm not delaying my success with eBay Motors. Keep your ride or die car alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Motors is a guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball here with Inside the Thunder's Derek Parker at InsideTheThunder.com, DraftDigest.com, DPark on YouTube and on Twitter. Derek Parker, I want you to know that you can also check out the Locked On Sports Today national YouTube channel, which is a 24/7 stream, one of its kind, of every Locked On show, the local stories, biggest news from the local experts. So you can go check that out 24/7 on the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel. But Derek, Chet Holmgren, as good as advertised. You had to wait a whole year to see it. But so far, Chet Holmgren is as good as advertised, and he's slowly but surely adding more and more and more to his play offensively. What is Chet Holmgren in your mind? Like, I know we're getting swept up in these first few games, but mixing in what you thought of him pre-draft and mixing what we've seen from him so far in the NBA, where do you now see his ceiling at and like his potential to be as an overall player?
Again, another guy I was really, really high on pre-draft. I had him number one personally, and he has done nothing to dissuade that notion. The first year thrown out the window. 17 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 56, 46, 91. This kid's a star, man. And for all the rookie of the year talk, which he should rightfully be number one in, I feel like we're having the wrong conversation, because if he's going to continue to do what he's doing at this level and the Thunder are going to continue to keep winning games, we need to be having the all-star conversation, because a defensive anchor, 17, 8, and 3 with 2 blocks a game, that's an all-star, man. Rudy Gobert's got in for less than that. I'll tell you right now.
The side swipe at Rudy.
I'm a Gobert guy, but that boy was never doing 56, 46, 91. I'll tell you that right now.
You're a Gobert groomer. Whoa, okay.
I don't know about all that. That's crazy.
Derek, wow. Okay. All-star Chet is what your projection was. Well, I'm going to stick with that. How do you view him in the construct of this team with Shai? It seems like his two-man game with Shai is getting better and better by the game. Do you think that he complements them and him as good as it appears?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. I mean, honestly, 14 games into this point, I don't think he's been used not the way he should have been. The chemistry has not been there. Like the Wembanyama people will point to Shai and Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams as these guys that are table setting for Chet Holmgren all the time and are feeding him buckets. And that's the reason he's shooting this insane efficiency. It's not. You know, the chemistry is growing. It's getting better. They've done that for him at times. And obviously they have this gravity that detracts defenders away from Chet Holmgren. But he's getting a lot of buckets himself. And it's a scary thought for the rest of the league that that's only going to continue to grow between them. He's good, man. He's really good. Like you said, as advertised, worth the wait, a star, maybe not in the making, maybe a star currently.
So he did top Victor on the rookie ladder today on NBA.com. Do you view him as potentially winning the award overall? My concern has been that, like, I think that voters have kind of cast the vote already for Victor, given the hype, given the fact that, you know, those same voters called Victor the best prospect since LeBron James. And like, if you do that and he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, it might feel like there's a little egg on your face. How do you view that shaking out in an overall meaningless, like, anecdote or like accolade, but like, how do you view it shaping up?
Maybe I'm naive and I've been burned before. I trust the voters to do the right thing when it comes to something like this. Like, I personally have said that Victor Wembanyama was the best basketball prospect since LeBron, and I 100% still fully believe that. But it's also okay to say that Chet Holmgren is having a drastically better season in most facets of the game right now. Like, it's okay to say that. He's been a better basketball player. And I think at the end of the day, voters will see that. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Like I said, I've been burned before.
I like it. You're the positivity. I'm the pessimist city. That's not a word at all, but we're going to roll with it. We're going to book in this because we're going to talk about the draft coming up and the next 5 games coming up. But we're going to book in this with your 2 biggest Twitter fights this week. Josh Giddey, and then your whole Shai versus Luka thing, which was, a thing that happened. Is Shai not only at the table for MVP, because technically he did finish 5th last year. That's kind of at the table adjacent.
Which is higher than Luka. That's all I'll say.
Okay, we want to keep going down that path. I'm trying to throw you the life preserver there, but you just kind of pass it up.
Nope. I can swim, baby.
If we had a Derek Parker Kia MVP ladder, eBay Motors MVP ladder, where would Shai rank on that right now today?
Honestly, I like the current one. I think it's Jokic 1, Luka 2, and then some combination of like Giannis, LeBron at 3, 4, I think, and then Shai at 5. I think that's fair. And to say that, let me defend the take. I never said Shai was better than Luka. I would never say that. I would never even angle that. That's not what I was trying to say. I think Shai statistically is closer to Luka's tier than some of these other guys he gets grouped in with. I mean, 36-6 to Luka's 38-8 with Shai's potential all defense right now. Like, there's a genuine possibility he gets voted to 2nd team all defense. Maybe not, but he has some of the most deflections in the league. He's leading the league in steals. He's like 5th in stocks. He's really, really good defensively, a huge part of basketball. He's not as far away from Luka statistically as people think. I think they're close to the same tier. Again, closer than he is to, say, Ant Edwards right now. People didn't like that at all, and I get it. If we're talking about playoff success, yes, Luka is phenomenal. He has an obvious one-up. But Shai he's good, man. And top 5 MVP finishes. They're both first-team All-NBA guards coming off last season. It's not that crazy a conversation as people think. It's just not.
It's not. And I look at this and I think that Shai, I personally like the Basketball Reference probability tracker for MVP, and they have Shai 3rd behind Jokic and Embiid. And I think that that's perfect. I think that, this team is able to weather the storm without him, as we've seen. And it's good. That's not a knock on Shai. They're just better at weathering a storm whenever Shai does have not his best self each and every night. But still, he's the straw that stirs the drink on both ends. And like, for this team to be as good as they need to be, despite having this really good young core, they have to have Shai. And he's a catalyst defensively, which I think does matter, especially in MVP, because each side of the floor is 50%. So like, if you're not performing at all on one side, which I think Luka's gotten better defensively this year, but still, if you're not performing at all on one side, then that kind of knocks you down a little bit. So for me, I like the MVP probability from Basketball Reference. I would have it. Jokic, Embiid, Shai. I'd probably move Shai a tick above Joel, but you can convince me either way on those 3 guys. And then the rest of the list is up for interpretation. Like, I would throw Luka in there. I throw Giannis in there a little bit, but like mainly Luka, maybe a sneaky Halliburton. But to me, the top 3. Go ahead.
That's my guy.
You're a Halliburton bro. I like that. But yeah, I think Shai is not only in the conversation, but he'll be ranking at the top of the conversation as the season progresses. Coming up this season, coming up on the show, let's talk the next 5 games. Very dangerous stretch for OKC and the upcoming NBA draft with our draft guru, D Park. Okay. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at FanDuel, it's the best time to go to FanDuel, just like it's the best time to wear a striped sweater. Because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with winning any $5 moneyline bet. So the money line is just who you think will win the game. So if you're catching on here, you can get that $150 in bonus bets if you pick the biggest favorite on the board and they win that game. You can also bet on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. You can do all this by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Why I say it's the best time to go to FanDuel is because everything's on the table. You have the NBA, you have college basketball, you have the NFL, college football, and everything else that you enjoy watching, NHL. So if you're only an NBA fan, I totally get it. That's why you listen to the show. For example, tonight at home, the Thunder are favorites against the Bulls by 7 points. You can go take the spread, or if you want that $150 in bonus bets, take them on the money line to win this game against Billy Donovan. We'll talk more about this stretch coming up on the Lockdown Thunder podcast. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast. We're here with Derek Parker on Twitter, DParkOK, draftdigest.com, InsideTheThunder.com. Derek, before we get to the draft stuff, let's look at these next 5 games. After tonight's Bulls game, this is the stretch. Sixers, Wolves, Lakers, Mavericks, a spunky little Jazz team. I'm not just saying that because David Locke's my boss. Spunky little Jazz team. This, I think, will kind of be a huge measuring stick for just how good this team is. They handled their business on the road trip. That was fantastic. And that felt extremely good for this young Thunder team. But how they handle Sixers, Wolves, Lakers, Mavs, Jazz, I think will go a long way in determining just how all in fans can get. And if they handle this stretch the way that they might be able to, that December homestand will be raucous. Now, Derek, what are we looking at here? In your best guess, what happens in the next 5 games?
Well, I think firstly, Oklahoma City's going to need J-Dub back. I'm not sure what the timetable is for that, but he is absolutely integral to what they're going to need to do against every single one of these teams to win, both offensively and defensively. If they can get that, I mean, these are good teams. Like the 76ers are at the top of the list right now of who you want to beat. The Wolves are right there as well. And then the Lakers, Mavs, both really, really tough teams in their respective areas. And then the Jazz, like you said, no pushover. I think 3-2 would genuinely be a win for this. If they can do more than that, great. Anything less, it's not going to be a hit the panic button, but it might be closer to what people were expecting at the beginning of the season.
So with this stretch, I am very intrigued with it. Now, you mentioned J-Dub. This is just if I had to guess. This is not like official. I find it interesting they were able to rest him on Sunday against the Blazers. He woke up sore from a hip injury he sustained in Golden State. He played through it, of course, in Golden State. He was healthy enough to play through it, but he woke up sore. So he's off on Sunday. Thunder have off days Monday, Tuesday. That's only the second time this year that they've had consecutive off days. And then they announce he's out Wednesday versus the Bulls, a team they've already blown out, a team in disarray, and a team that they should still take care of tonight in the Paycom Center. So you miss 2 games. You get Thursday, Friday off. You miss 2 games for 6 days off heading into this incredibly tough 5-game stretch. If I had to guess, that was a very strategic plan. Now, that is just a speculation. That is not anything that you should run with, but it's interesting that it sets up that way to where if he is able to go, what a great layout to get those 6 days off at the sacrifice of 2 games, both against opponents who you should be better than and were better than Sunday, and 7-point favorites against on Wednesday against the Bulls. Now, of this stretch, whenever you look at these teams, who do you think that they match up with the best, excluding the Jazz, and who do you think that they match up with the worst?
It's tough because they've got such great defensive pieces. I feel like they match up well with a lot of these teams. You know, they can throw point of attack defenders at Tyrese Maxey, and Chet Holmgren can limit Embiid the way only Chet Holmgren can. And it's the same with the Wolves. I mean, you can throw Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, J-Dub at Anthony Edwards and whoever else. And then you're also going to have Chet Holmgren in the paint. It's tough. I feel like they're going to be able to give their best shot to a lot of these teams. The Wolves, I feel like, are maybe the one I like the least here, considering they've got 2 7-footers to the rest of these 1.
That's exactly my pick for the worst matchup. I'm not saying it's like an automatic loss. I'm just interested to see like the litmus test of how they handle Minnesota. I think that they match up best with the Mavericks because even if Luka and Kyrie play, as you mentioned before, they have 3 really good perimeter defenders on Lou, Cason, Shai, and then Chet versus Lively. I like that matchup for the Thunder. And then from there, I think the Thunders have better complementary pieces than the Mavericks do. I mean, the Mavericks tried. I'll give them credit. They tried to go get Grant Williams. They tried to go get Seth Curry. And they did a good job this offseason for the resources that they had. But ultimately, past the first guy. I think that the Thunder have better pieces. And so whenever you have the ability to try to negate what they can do, and the Mavericks don't play a lick of defense, period, and the Thunder have a very efficient shooting team right now, and we'll see if that comes back down to earth. But like, I am really interested to see how the Thunder handle playing the Mavericks and their poor defense, and then how they handle playing the Wolves. And like, they're a very good team right now, and they have the size and everything else. And it's an in-season tournament game. So like, what does it look like in terms of elimination standings there? They avoided elimination on yesterday's in-season tournament day. Can they survive up until that game against the Warriors? Now, Derek, what we all come to know and love from you is your draft talk. You can find it at draftdigest.com. Derek, what are some names that people should look out for? Give me like 3 or 5 names, 3 to 5 of names that the Thunder fans should be paying attention to in this draft.
Yeah, I want to preface by saying I think there are less Thundery people than normal in this draft. Not that they're not going to have guys that they're looking at and that they like and that are good basketball players eventually down the line. I just think it's less clear cut than it has been in these last few years. Like, pretty much everyone and their mom knew that the Thunder were a fan of Ousmane Dieng. And I just don't see a ton of guys exactly like that in this draft. I assumed that they would like Cason as well. Again, just don't see guys that fit that mold in this draft. But I think if we're thinking in that 10 to 20 range for the Rockets, Clippers, and Thunder picks, I think you need to start probably with Zachary Rizachet of France. He's a lengthy wing forward project pick, very smooth, but has yet to really put everything together, similar to the projects of drafts past, like Ousmane Dieng. He can handle block shots primarily or secondarily. The shot is really, really iffy. It's really flat, and he's not my personal favorite prospect, but I think he's a guy that Oklahoma City will definitely have their eye on. Nikola Topic, out of Mega Miss, 6'6" point guard out of Serbia. He's doing some wild things statistically in the Adriatic League right now. And I think he provides some of that similar versatility to other guards that Oklahoma City has drafted. You know, they drafted Cason, who is effectively a point guard, but he's playing small forward right now in certain roles. And I think that Topic would be able to kind of slot in and out of lineups like that. He might get top 5 buzz by the time this thing's all said and done because he's that good. But for now, a guy that I think would be a target for them in the 10 to 20 range. Izan Almanza out of the G League Ignite, 6'9", 10 forward, 19 years old, has pretty much every international accolade you could have under his belt. Great positional versatility, can put the ball on the floor, very smart basketball player. The one thing holding him back from being the perfect Thunder prospect is the three-point shooting, which is pretty much non-existent right now, but he's got some Kenny Hustle to him in the fact that he's really, really versatile defensively and is a smart offensive player. Bobby Klintman, NBL, another 6'10" forward wing hybrid. Again, can do a little bit of everything, smooth for his size, but has yet to like really, really make an impact. We've heard Presti say before that he really respects and admires players who are bold enough to throw themselves into different situations. And Klintman has done it twice now in the fact that he grew up in Sweden, came over to play for Wake Forest, and now has gone from Wake Forest to the NBL and is off to a hot start there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's on Thunder lists for that reason. And then my last prospect, number 5, Cody Williams, Colorado, obvious reasons, brother of J-Dub. But more than that, he's a good basketball player. He's lengthy wing who can do a little bit of everything. Good defensive prospect, good athleticism, good connective passer. Probably wouldn't be a flashy draft pick, but he is a guy who would fit the identity and culture of the Thunder well.
I love it. My number 1 guy is Alex Sarr, and I wonder if they could ever make a move to get up there to get him. That's going to be a lofty goal, though, I believe, in this draft. So we'll see what they do. Derek, thanks for joining us. Let them know where they can find what you're cooking and they can get in fights with you, little dust-ups with you on Twitter, because you just love to engage there.
Yeah, if you're wanting to fight, I'm on Twitter at dparkok, YouTube Derek-Parker. You can find all my writing inside thethunder.com, Draft Digest on the Sports Illustrated Fan Nation channels. Is that it? I think that's it. Those are the spots.
That's it for dparkok on Twitter. That's it for @Rylan_Stiles on Twitter. And until tonight, as we recap the Bulls game, be good and be good to one another.